process of changing your career can be very exciting, but it can also be very daunting and worrying and confusing, especially if you don't have the right information, advice, and guidance that you need to help you to make an informed decision. Today, I'm sitting down with the founder of Confident Career Switch, and Alexandra is a career strategist, a speaker, and a consultant who specializes in helping professionals to pivot from one industry to another without starting from scratch. And if you ever thought about changing your career and you didn't know where to start, today's episode is yours. Stay with me and welcome to Life Campus. My name is Ezra. I'm your host and your guide as we navigate through the twists and turns of adulthood. So without wasting more of your time, Alexandra, welcome to Life Campus Podcast, and thank you very much for joining me today. I'm very, very excited, and I do appreciate your time. I know how busy you are trying to help people to get those careers that they've been looking for, things that they've always wanted to do, and probably been scared to change, and you are there to help and support those individuals. So before we go into anything, I think the most important thing is for you to introduce yourself so that we get to know you a little bit better. So if you could tell us what you do, and then we take it from there.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, Ezra. And I am Alexandra Aileru. I am a career strategist. I am a speaker, a consultant, a content creator as well. So there's various hats that I wear. And I'm all things careers, specifically career changing. Last year, I began to document daily my transition from education into project management. So I'd been in project management for a couple of years. I left education a few years ago, back in 2020, and I was sharing with an audience on TikTok how I was able to transition. And I constantly got different requests, can you explain this? Can you help this? And grew a following that way. And then also was getting requests around, would you mentor me? Would you coach me? Would you mentor me? Would you coach me? And I said, okay, but clearly there's a demand here. So that's how my company Confident Career Switch was birthed, because the missing element that most people didn't have was this confidence to be able to transition from where they were at the moment to a new field. And so that's what Confident Career Switch is all about. Our motto is ditch the career that you hate. We'll coach you into the one that you love. We stand very boldly on that. And there is a need for support for people when they're transitioning careers. Not everybody has the support from colleagues, from friends, and from family, and also having a roadmap. So there's two aspects: mindset and also having the roadmap step by step to take you through the journey. So that's what I do day to day. Right now, that's all I'm focused on, all things careers, and helping as many people get into the career that they truly love.
Okay, that's really interesting. And what I find even more interesting is that it sounds like I'm in education at the moment, and your background is also in education. And we'll get into it later on, but I also did a project management qualification to try to get into project management. But I think I'll bring that up later on because I've got questions around that. But I guess what I would like to know for people who would not understand, what is a career strategist? What does it entail? What do you do to help individuals?
Sure. So in terms of a career strategist, we put together the roadmap for you to be able to leave where you are at the moment and move into the career that you desire. So for some people, that might be an internal move within their organization. That might be a move within their industry. It might be a move within another industry, or it might be a move within something that you haven't done before, like entrepreneurship. So that's what I do as a career strategist, making sure that you have a roadmap that's aligned with your values, because that's typically why people want to leave in the first place. A value misalignment in the first place that's causing some sort of burnout, that's causing some sort of frustration. They know that they can be doing more, especially in terms of being challenged, but they aren't necessarily being challenged where they are. And also sometimes as well, what we find is they have a really bright light, they're excellent, but unfortunately their workplace or space or team department isn't allowing them to shine. And they want to go somewhere where they can do that.
Okay. So are there any common reasons why people want to move? You talked about wanting to shine, and I guess if I'm to look at your journey, you moved from education, what were the specific reasons why you decided to move to go into project management?
Well, that's a great question. For me, the number one reason why I wanted to move was because, again, I was misaligned in terms of values. So when I got into teaching, I knew that this wasn't actually going to be something I was going to do for the rest of my life. I knew that. I knew I had an end date. And for me, teaching became very repetitive. I wasn't being challenged. So, day to day, of course, teaching comes with its challenges. But in terms of my career development and growth, I didn't believe that I was. And so I spoke to different people in terms of, because a lot of teachers and educators, they find themselves, well, what do I do next? Because you feel like very much a generalist as an educator. And I'm here to tell those people that that's actually your superpower, the fact that you're a generalist. And your teaching skill set is something that you will never leave you. So for me, I teach now in a different capacity. I teach in my coaching sessions. I teach online through my content. I teach through my speaking engagements. I'm still teaching, just not confined to the classroom. And for me, I knew that I was always going to be a teacher at heart. I just needed to change my environment because my environment no longer aligned with who I was. And in the beginning, I was very confused. I didn't know what to do next. What do teachers do? I tried different things and I didn't know how to position my value so that an organization or an employer, very different to where I was from, could see me and say, yes, you'd be perfect for us here. And that was the key thing that I embed within my clients and that I share online as well.
We started going into like transferable skills a little bit on there, which is a different kind of segment that I want us to touch on again. But before we go into that, one thing that hold people back mostly is the fear of the unknown, venturing into a new sector that you don't know much about. Were there any kind of worries that you had coming from education going into project management? And if there were, how did you overcome those fears?
For me, there is fear. And anybody who tells you that there isn't fear, I find it very hard to believe. You're always going to have a fear of something. I didn't have a fear that I was going to be incompetent. I knew that I was going to thrive. I just needed to know when that transition was going to happen for me. So for me, there was a fear around, how long is this process going to take? Am I doing the right thing? Am I, with all these applications that I'm submitting, it just feels like the roadmap, I didn't have one to begin with. And that gave me a lot of fear. When is this going to happen for me? Just a lack of trust of the process, essentially. But learning along the journey that that process is vital to help you when you get to that destination as well. So that's something I'd be saying to people who are through this transition period because it's tough. It's tough going through a transition. It's uncomfortable. You don't like it. However, that uncomfortability is required to take you from A to B. A to B is never just linear. There are lots of ebbs and flows that happen as you move through those transitions. So for me, it was the fear of the unknown in terms of, well, I don't know what this process is going to look like from start to finish.
Okay. So exploring your options, maybe looking, doing a lot of research into the industry that you are interested in,
Mhm.
maybe before jumping the ship and
Yep.
trying to figure out whether that's really what you want to do. And that's exactly what we try and do here at Life Campus Podcast to give people insights into those industries that they maybe are interested in, so that when they're making a decision, they've got the information, the advice, and the guidance to help them to make informed decisions. So that's really good. If you, let's say, for example, an individual decides that they want to go into this specific industry. So, for example, you want to go into project management. You're coming from, you're maybe a nurse or a teacher. What are the first few steps that they realistically need to do in order to start that process of going into project management?
So, the first thing that I tell my clients, which are traditionally from education, healthcare, admin, and government type roles, is to look at your achievements. So, there is a workbook that I give them to have a look at in terms of look at your achievements, look at what it is that you have done well. Because so many people, especially within education, especially within healthcare, there are so many things that they're doing and they are excelling, but because of the environment that they're in, they think that they are less than, that the work that they are doing is the bare minimum or just enough, but actually they're doing something and they're doing it really well. So look at how you have played a part within the projects in your team and within your organization, within your department, and have 10 achievements. If you really struggle with those achievements to compile that document, I know that obviously there's further work that we need to do, but a lot of people think that by talking about their achievements that they're bragging, but you're not bragging because you're talking about something that you've already done. And the first step, really, by doing that, is you're learning how to advocate for yourself. You're learning how to tell people, hey, I have done this and that. And it helps you in your interviews. It helps you to revamp your CV. It helps you to revamp your LinkedIn. And that is always going to be the first step. What have I done and what have I done really well? Because that gives you a level of confidence to say, okay, actually, I am prepared for this. Then next, I'd be looking at transferable skills, because again, transferable skills is a question mark for a lot of people. They don't really know what transferable skills are. So I always say, take job descriptions, review as many job descriptions as you can, maybe about 10. Put it into ChatGPT. Tell it, explain it to me like I am 10 years old. What do you mean by these skills? What do you mean by this experience? And have a look at my CV. Is there any similarities between the two of them? And again, it's evidence building. You begin to see, actually, well, I have done this, I have done that. It's not worded quite the same, but the principle is there. That's where you begin to see the transferable skills.
And you touched on something that I recently found out, especially like when you're using LinkedIn, where if you're interested in the job, there's this system where it looks at your CV and it tells you whether you are a match, and if you're not, it tells you where to work on your CV, what things you need to be working on in terms to improve. So that is something that also people can start doing and utilizing. That those tools, there are resources that are out there that probably people don't know. And I think LinkedIn is a good place to start and getting used in terms of being very familiar and knowing what the way to use it to your advantage, really. So in terms of transferable skills, are there any that are normally overlooked that people don't think as these are transferable skills that I can actually that are important when I'm going into a different sector?
Public speaking. If you are a healthcare professional, if you are an educator, in many government roles, in many administrative roles, you are a public speaker. You are speaking to the public day in, day out. That is a skill set that so many people struggle with, right? So many people, especially within corporate settings, speak to the same people day in, day out, over and over again. It's periodically during some meetings that maybe you speak to a wider audience. And even at that, a lot of the time it will be virtually, not necessarily in person, right? You, in all of those roles I stated beforehand, are speaking to people in public. That is a valuable skill set. And anybody who is watching this, who is from those backgrounds, leverage the fact that you are a public speaker, because that helps you with any opportunity that you want to get into.
Okay. Are there any other areas where they can pick up that skill? So, for example, if you are, let's say, you are in healthcare and you're a nurse and you just don't have the platforms to really showcase your skills in communication and stuff, and you want to practice, are there any things that they can actually start doing, or any platform they can join to practice those kind of the public speaking?
Sure. So there are online communities for speakers. For example, you can join Toastmasters. There's lots of Toastmasters up and down the country where you can join and you can refine your public speaking skill sets. And it is very lucrative in terms of opportunities that can come your way, but also making you look like, oh, a standout candidate when you're speaking to people to say, public speaking is something that I do as well. something else that you can do is just putting yourself forward for things at work, right? So yes, day in, day out, you are a nurse, you work with your patients and your other team members. But are there any opportunities beyond where you can contribute to? Are there coffee mornings? Are there like an awards event? Is there a charity event? Is there something that you can put yourself forward for where you're given the opportunity to speak publicly? Putting yourself forward for these things, it's very rare that somebody will turn around and tell you no, because they're always looking for somebody to help. So that's what you want to be doing, positioning yourself as vast as you can within your organization. Because sometimes what you will find is that actually it is possible for you to pivot internally into what you want to do. But because you were so focused on where you are at the moment, you dismissed the opportunities that exist within your organization.
Yeah, I think that's very true because I see it in management in higher education, and there are people who have a lot of potential and they're thinking about kind of climbing the ladder, doing other things, or probably going out of education. And there are so many opportunities that comes up, and people shy away from stepping forward and say, oh, maybe that's not within my remit. But I guess those are the areas where you should be really jumping on to say, okay, yeah, it's not within my remit, but I have to learn and I have to put myself in those situations so I can develop my communication skills and also confidence, just to grow your confidence as well. So I think the other question that I just thought about is like, if you are moving into a different sector, you're in most cases probably you will have to start at entry level. Is that correct line of thinking, or is that a misconception?
It depends. So you are a professional coming from any of those areas that I said. And to be fair, if you've been working for a few years, you are a professional. So you don't have to go into an entry level role. What I do say with project management is this: unless you are going into a project management role within your current industry, then I wouldn't advise you to go into a project management role just because of the weight of the role, right? You get chucked into the deep end, your head is on the chopping block, it's very fast paced. And for somebody coming into that environment, it's best to give yourself grace for a year taking a project analyst role, for example, so you can learn from the project manager, or a PMO analyst role, or coordinator, or just a role that's slightly beneath, where you would be reporting into a project manager or program manager or wherever, so that you can understand the environment, because you are moving from one environment that has very thorough code of ethics. So the thing that I had to learn going from education into corporate is that it's a very different landscape. In education, if somebody says something, they have to do it and they're held to that standard. You don't always get that in corporate. So it's also about learning the environment, because you may come into that environment with a certain naivety that everybody does as they say, and they won't, right? So for your sake, I say to my clients, typically if you're moving into a brand new industry that you don't know at all, then give yourself grace, give yourself 1 year. But at that 1 year mark, you will be promoted. You will be promoted. You will be in a project management position, or whatever is the step up for you, because you may decide actually, once you get into the change environment, that you want to do something else, but you will not continue in that capacity anymore. But soak up, be a sponge, take in as much as you possibly can. You will do really well. Yourself the opportunity to be a student for once, especially in the case of the educators. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I'm ready. I've decided that I'm going to switch. Now I'm thinking about interviews. I've started submitting applications. I've been invited to the interview. How do I prepare for interviews, for especially going into a different sector altogether? What are the main things that I have to consider?
You need to understand the industry that you're going into. That's one. So understand the industry. What is the industry's pain points? What do they do, and what do they do well? Who are their competitors? Right? And especially when you're coming from education and healthcare, depending on the setting, you may not have ever had to worry about competitors beforehand. But if you're moving into a corporate setting, that's something that you have to factor in. What are they doing and what do they do well? So that's one. Number two, this and many people are afraid of interviews, and especially it can be very daunting to do an interview in a new industry. You're like, oh, I don't know what kind of questions they're going to be asking me and all the things. This is where you're going to go back to your achievements. What did I do and do well? Because this is how I'm positioning myself as a valuable person. And I would begin to map them to core competency. So typically you get competency based questions that will look at, in project management, for example, stakeholder management and risk management and planning and organization. So I would begin to map my achievements to those competencies so that then when I'm in the interview, I can articulate myself. And they're asking me this question. Okay, yeah, I have an example of when I did this, and this is how I did this, obviously using the STAR method. So situation, task, action, and result to articulate your value. And the number one thing I would be telling you is studying job descriptions and consuming as much content from that industry because you need to speak like them. People hire who are similar to them. If you sound different, automatically their backs are up. But if you sound like them, then they're going to be more susceptible to listening to you, to understanding you. Okay, this person is one of us. So think about it from your point of view. Again, you have this amazing ability to be able to be adaptable and see things from other people's point of view. This is where you're going to be doing that here. How would I perceive myself, if I were them? So that's
Okay.
what I would be telling you.
I've looked at your work on different platforms, TikTok, and I've also looked at your website. You offer a few services on there. Can you tell us some of the services that you offer and how they work?
Sure. So our most popular is group coaching. So group coaching provides you with a tight turnaround, either 4 weeks or 8 weeks. The 4 weeks is to get you started. So a lot of people are like, oh, I just, I know what I want to do, but I need something that's going to get me off the ground. So there's a 4 weeks group coaching. You have a session every single week with other people who are on the same or similar journey as you. And we go through what is on our learning portal. So there's a portal that's been created and it has resources, videos that go into depth that take you through the journey, really. The group coaching is the mindset. Those sessions is to help you flush out anything that you've seen on the portal, but also what's going on with you mentally. Because to be fair, you could do what's on the portal on your own without any input from me, right? However, we know that change for many people is difficult. And so that's what it is. It's overcoming the mindset. And so for me, I make reference to my, where my belief comes from. I'm a Christian and, obviously each and every single person, because I don't only work with Christian clients, I have clients from all different faiths, right? But saying that you need to believe it is possible for you to make the change. If you don't believe it's possible, then it's never going to happen. And in the beginning, everybody's really excited. Halfway through, this is really tough. And that's when you have to keep going, right? And by the end of the coaching, what I find is you're not the same person that you were in the beginning. You came in with one very narrow mindset, but now your mind is open to, wow, there's so many opportunities that I can have. I know how to network with people. I know how to speak about myself and articulate my value very confidently. I know how to show up online and offline. I know that I am a valuable person and I can thrive in any arena, provided that I know what is required of me and I know that I can meet those requirements.
So that sounds like a lot of work in terms of changing someone's mindset so that they see things in a different way. Because obviously, like you pointed out, change is not easy for a lot of people. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear of the unknown. So your work is to try and get them to change their perspective in terms of how they see that industry and get them to see probably their value within that industry, what they bring to the table, so to say, based on the skills, their experience, and everything that they have done before, and aligning it to the industry they're interested in. Is that
Yes,
a good understanding?
yes, agreed. Because again, that lack of confidence that so many people have, I've been applying beforehand, I didn't hear anything. Is it that, I'm not the right person? Is it that I don't have the right skill set? Is it me? And sometimes you begin to take these things personally. It's not you, it's not personal to you. It's a process and it's being able to market yourself within the career space and just in your life as a whole, you have to do yourself this service of remembering I spend so much time at work. It is in my best interest to make sure that I'm refined as and see myself as a business. I tell everybody, tell all my clients that begin to see yourself as a business. When you see yourself as a business, you know exactly what it is that you're selling. You know what your USP is, your unique selling point is. You know what you do well, you know what you don't do well, right? There are all of these things. And once you see yourself as this skill set isn't lost after you transition. This is a skill set that you now have for the rest of your career. So when it's time for you to go for a promotion, when it's time for you to put yourself forward for other opportunities that are going to help you expand and grow just as a whole, you are always remembering, yes, I am a person of value and documenting that as well, documenting it and shouting about it.
Yeah. I really like the idea of looking at yourself as a business, because once you've done that, you now start looking at, okay, as a business, I need to attract customers. And what do I need to do to attract the right customers to my business? Yeah, it just makes you think things in a very different perspective that will help you to make the right decisions for yourself, really. So, no, thank you. Definitely use that because I really, I really like that. Okay, do you have any example of a success story, someone you've worked with from start and they are somewhere now because of your help?
Yes, I do. So Chanel, and I know she doesn't mind me mentioning her, she was a teacher. She had been a teacher for years and had tried, like so many people, to leave, but then it didn't quite work out and she ran back and then leave, dipped her
Wow.
toes, didn't quite work out, went back. And so it was so amazing working with her because she really had the drive to see it through. She said, I am going to see it through. And that's one of the key things that's really important. I can give you all of the tools, which you have. You have the roadmap. I can tell you, you're going to make it, you're going to do it. But if you don't have the drive to show up each and every single day and each and every single week, then the transition isn't going to happen. But she had that. And so within 12 weeks, she went from education to signing her new contract and actually starting. And this was over a Christmas period as well. So wasn't thinking that, I thought that there would be a bit of a delay, but literally, she started in January in her new role, working in PMO, so project management office and in an organization that has lots and lots of change. So it's a tech company as well. So going from teaching media to now going into being within a tech firm, and within her first week or two contributing ideas using her teaching skill set to say, hey, we're overcomplicating things here, let's call it this and this. Let's think about, so already strategizing as a teacher does, and taking very complex information and breaking it down and teaching it and differentiating it to the audience that is in front of her. And that's again the skill set that you have. And I always am going to remind people that it's valuable to where it is that you're going to. Don't ever think that just because you look slightly different. So Chanel for me, obviously the timing, one, her drive, two, and just being able to see where she was on day one to the end, absolutely, absolutely amazing. I absolutely enjoyed working with her. And her success was also great to share with other people and gave them the drive to say,
Yeah.
hey, actually, this is possible for me as well, and saw a bit of a spike of interviews coming through, which is good.
Like that. I mean, so were there any specific challenges that you helped Chanel to overcome?
Sure. So it was, again, being able to position herself, right? So her CV on day one was very much teacher centric. And even at that, it was misplacing things. So if you're doing any sort of certification that's related to where it is that you're going to go to, that doesn't need to be at the bottom of your CV. That needs to be up towards the top. You need to remember what your CV is. It's a document that's an introduction to you before they ever meet you. So you have to make sure that it sells you effectively. So beginning to remind her and really coach her through the mindset of this document is a reflection of you. If you don't articulate yourself clearly on this document, then and you don't make yourself a big deal, they will not think that you're a big deal. You have to remember you're a big deal. I'm a big deal on my CV. I'm a big deal on my LinkedIn. I'm a big deal in the interview. I'm a big deal. This is however long the interview is, 45 minutes, 1 hour. This is an hour of me putting on an award-winning show, not of me acting, but of me actually talking about the amazing things that I have been doing. Again, it's not bragging, it's you talking about what it is that you've actually done and feeling comfortable with doing that, because so many people are like, well, I need to be humble. It's not you're not being boastful or proud by talking about what you've done. That's
Yeah,
normal.
just static facts, isn't it? If you're
Yeah.
good, you're good, I guess. That is good. So you mentioned LinkedIn. Is there any kind of tips and advice you can give someone in order to use LinkedIn effectively to help them in their journey?
1000% show up. Show up on LinkedIn. There are too many times where we see the open to work post. I've been applying for 6 months. I've been applying for a year. I haven't got anything through. Can somebody help me? And then from that post, they get the traction. And I always click on the post. I always click on the person that posted and I have a look, and they haven't posted anything for 6 months, for a year. Where were you? Out of sight, out of mind. People hire who they know, or somebody linked to who they know. If you kept showing up and connecting with people within the spaces that you wanted to infiltrate, they would keep you front of mind. Think about us. Again, thinking about yourself as a business, I follow big brands. I follow Boots. I follow Selfridges. I follow, I also follow the likes of, Victoria Beckham. She posts every single day. Those brands I just said, they post every single day. They make these are multi-million, multi-billion dollar organizations, but they post every single day. Why? Because you need to be the front of people's minds. And if you're afraid of being seen, I'm very sorry to tell you that you're not going to get the best opportunities in life, just as a whole. And that is obviously reflected within your career. So show up, and over time, you will get better.
Yeah, I guess so. I think the question that will come up in people's mind is, how do I show up? Okay, so I'm interested in going into project management. What do I post?
Mhm.
I guess that's what people worry about. What am I posting here
Yeah.
for people to notice me?
Well, number one, the amazing thing is we have the repost feature on LinkedIn. So I would be following thought leaders, right? Somebody says something within project management, I can repost that and add my own twopence to what they said. That's where I would be starting, honestly. If I'm like, I don't know what to post on LinkedIn, start there. Why is that an effective tactic? Well, number one, you didn't have to come up with the content originally. It's not an original idea. You're just responding, so that's great. Number two, you are reposting that person's content. That person wants engagement. They want to be reposted. They're now, on other people's feeds, so that's great. And sometimes when you repost, somebody reaches out to you and says, thank you for reposting. You're now on that person's radar. That's two. And by you commenting on that person's post, you are now showing thought leadership in what it is that you're articulating. So something that may seem so simple is really powerful. And that's what I would be telling people to do today. Follow thought leaders who post regularly and repost what they are talking about. And if you're not always able to repost, fine, write a comment, because all of these are forms of visibility and you have no idea who's looking.
Okay, that's that when you don't think about it and you don't know anything about it, it sounds so daunting. But when you put it like that, just start by reposting. And the thing is, the more you repost, that means you have to read the content, and now you have your own opinion about whatever is being discussed. You can put a sentence or two about your thoughts and then repost. So yeah, okay, no, that's good. You also talked about a kind of personal branding is something that you help people with. What does that look like? And what does it mean, personal branding? I've heard a lot of people saying this nowadays, but we need to understand what it means and what does it entail.
Sure. So your personal brand is what you're known for. That is the bottom line of it. What do people say about you when the name Ezra is mentioned? What do people say about me when the name Alexandra Aileru is mentioned? That's essentially what our brand is. What do people say about us behind our back? That's our brand. right? At a very basic level within careers, your brand is how well you do your work. You should be known for doing your work well. That's a non-negotiable, because sometimes there is discourse online about give the bare minimum. I don't believe in that. You should do what you do and do it very well, because your work, being respected for what it is that you do, should give you a sense of pride, and also gives the people that you're working with a sense of comfort around your ability. Your brand, and this is where the personal aspect can also be, well, what do I want to be known for? So what am I known for today? But what do I want to be known for? And at the worst end of the scale, if somebody says your name or your name is mentioned and they don't think anything of it, then that is fact. You cannot afford to not have a brand in 2025, right? Where your name comes up. And why is this? Because this is how you get passed up for opportunities, where you could be phenomenal at your job, but because they don't know you, because they don't see you. So for example, you work in an online capacity. Whenever you're working, your camera is off, or you don't ever interact with anybody, you kind of keep yourself to yourself, you allow your work to speak for itself. That's poor personal branding. So again, going back to the brand, ask yourself, what do people say about me behind my back? Am I happy with what they would be saying about me behind my back? And if not, thank goodness you can change that at any given time.
Okay. So, what advice would you give someone like me? Obviously, I'm starting into the podcast world and I want to build that brand. What should I be doing?
So again, number one, do what you're doing well. That's the fundamental, right? Number two, visibility. So you're already on LinkedIn, you're reaching out to people, talk about what you're doing on your podcast, build this momentum about, okay, well, this week we have this guest, Alexandra Aileru, maybe on the Monday or something. The episode is going to be put out tomorrow. Are you somebody who's considering changing careers? And just talking and documenting about what it's like as a podcaster, and speak to the younger version of yourself that didn't know what you know now. So there was a time when you were considering going into podcasting, and there's things that you've now picked up and you were like, I wish somebody would have told me this, but I've learned it along the way. Those are also nuggets that you could be sharing with people. It's so multifaceted and multi-layered. But once you start, you're like, oh, okay. And then maybe you get feedback and you say, okay, well, this is a thing I can continue to feed. But ultimately, at the core of everything with your personal brand, the people that have mastered their personal brands for good purposes, not bad, because obviously you can have a bad personal brand for being problematic and everything, are the people who have a mindset, I'm here to serve. So this podcast, this platform is here to serve. You are here to serve individuals who are charismatic about their career and how they want to move and navigate. And for as long as you have them at the forefront, you're always going to make sure that you're speaking directly to those people online and when you meet them in person as well.
I guess it goes back to the idea of I'm a business, like you said, I'm a business. Who are my customers, and what do I need to do to keep them engaged, to keep attracting those customers? Okay, that's really helpful for me. I would definitely take that to take that on board and start working. You talked about talk to your younger version of yourself, and maybe things that you didn't know in the past that you know now. Looking at your journey, do you think there are any like things that you'd like to share with people in terms of what you've learned, to things that you overcome along the way and got you to where you are today?
Sure. I mean, I'm very open in terms of the hurdles that I faced within my career. I share it with my clients, I share it online. Ultimately, for me, the one thing that was holding me back was a fear of being seen, which at a deeper level, so I like to use a tree analogy. So there was a fear of being seen, which was one of the fruits, or the fruits that were popping up all over the place. The branches and the bark was a fear of being judged. I didn't want to be judged for doing something incorrectly. And at the root of that, there was a fear of being rejected. And so this followed me in everything that I did, because it's such a deep rooted fear. Most of us pick up these fears when we're children based upon our environment, right? But it was at a point, I had a few pivotal moments. And one of them for me was that your fear of being seen is what is stopping you from getting opportunities. and ultimately will affect you financially, I said, absolutely not. Because that did happen for me. That happened for me. I had a very big wake-up call when I had a new manager who absolutely was amazing. And unfortunately, in a previous position with my old manager, I didn't advocate myself. I wasn't visible. I was in a very toxic environment, unfortunately. And so when I got to this amazing manager, she said to me, "You're doing amazing work. However, you don't know your brand. So I'm struggling to brand you." And as a result of that, I didn't get the performance rating that I deserved, and I didn't get the financial reward in terms of the bonus that I deserved. And I said, never again will I ever allow there to be a question mark after the name Alexandra Aileru. We will know exactly what it is that I do, exactly what I stand for, exactly what I bring to the table. No question marks, only an exclamation mark after my name each and every single time. And that was the wake up call for me. And that goes to knowing who you are, what you do well, and your value. If you don't know any of these things, if you're lost in your identity, it's going to be very difficult for you to do those things.
Thank you very much for that. There's a question about strategic job searching. How do you strategize when it comes to job searching? And I don't know, what should I be focusing? Is there any tips that I should be following? Any way that will kind of give me an advantage over other people really who are looking for the same jobs?
Networking. Networking should be your number one strategy. Networking online and networking in person. That is what is going to get you ahead in your career just as a whole. And I need for people to, again, going back to the business analogy, right? You need to think about your career long term and not just right now, especially when your career changing. So many people within the NHS or healthcare and education, they have a very linear, narrow way of seeing their career. No, your career is expansive. Maybe you put yourself in a box, but there are career opportunities coming up all the time. There are careers now that didn't exist 5 years ago, and there will be in the next 5 years, and so on and so forth. So, if you want to get opportunities, opportunities come to those people who are strategic in their networking. Prioritize networking. How do you do that? By being visible. And one way that you can do that again is by going on to LinkedIn, beginning to connect with people in the areas that you want to be in and reaching out to them, going to industry events, those things. People remember people, so networking is always going to set you apart from somebody else because you're visible.
Yeah. And throughout this conversation, one thing that I've come across that is very important is communication, which obviously leads into networking and things like your confidence as well. I think it's all built on the ability to communicate, to express yourself, things that you're interested in, things that you bring to the table. And I guess also, would you say the skills to negotiate is something that you need to develop if you are looking to go into any industry, really?
Yes. So in terms of communication, if I could break it down even further, you need to be able to storytell. That is the fine art of communication, that you can storytell. Number two, advocacy. So that's you standing up for yourself and for others. And negotiation comes under advocating. If you struggle to advocate for yourself, then you're never going to negotiate or negotiate effectively. And number three, going back to what I said earlier in terms of serving, that requires you listening and understanding the people that you are there to serve, the clients, the customers, the stakeholders that you are catering to. That is part of communication because you may think that you know everything that there is to know, but it's not. You have to listen to your consumers, to your end users, to the people that actually want the product or the service. If you have those three things, then this is career advice that transcends everything. In fact, this is business advice. So, really, you can use this to build any brand
Yeah.
and build it effectively.
Okay. So going back to what you said about storytelling, I think that's a very powerful technique to have, it's a skill to have. But how can people build that skill?
So, storytelling is number one, knowing the audience that you're speaking to. Number two, this information, I know it, or maybe you don't know it. How can I break it down so that a person sitting across from me who doesn't know this can know this too? And number three, what's the purpose of me telling this person this in the first place? Because Two people could tell you the same thing. However, one person articulates it in a way that resonates with you because they've mastered storytelling, because they know how to speak to you, or it feels like they're speaking to you. That's an art that you learn by studying, by researching. Who am I speaking to? Remove yourself and focus on the person that's sitting across from you. If you master that, you can speak to anybody. And I'm here to remind, especially the educators, you've been doing that throughout the entirety of your career, because there was a lot of information that you had up here and you had to teach it to other people, right? And communicate it in a way that they would understand. So you've already been doing it. You probably just didn't know that you were doing it. And you've been doing it really well.
And the thing is, when you have conversation like this, that's when you realize that there's so much that you do already, or the skills that you have already that you don't think about. And I personally think that there's just one job that you do that you learn a lot from it, that you develop a lot of skills out of it. So for example, for me, it was years ago, and when I tell people that the moment I realized the need to be a good communicator was I was working at a hospital as a domestic assistant, and there was this lady I really enjoyed talking to, and I'll stand there, I'll talk to her, we'll communicate, and that's when I developed the desire to communicate with people. And I used to shy away from talking to people and communicating with people, and until I met that lady and in that job. And people don't realize that the everyday things that you do, and if you really analyze them, there's a lot of learning and there's a lot of skills that you're developing in those things. So yeah, no. Is there anything else that you think that we have not addressed today that you think people need to know?
I think we covered a lot of ground within this time. I'm just here to remind you that if you want to make a career transition, that it is 1000% possible. You need to have the belief in order to do so. And you need to get really good at understanding what you do well, because your strengths are what's going to take you from here to where it is that you want to get to. And if you think that you're struggling with articulating yourself, or maybe I'm overselling, or maybe I'm bragging, I'm here to remind you that there is somebody who doesn't have half the skills that you have, who's excelling and thriving in the role that you already want to do because they know their value proposition well and they know how to articulate it. And never, ever, ever stop communicating the value that you bring. Make sure it becomes comfortable to you, and start by doing it today in your current organization. Don't wait until you move. Start today.
Okay, thank you very much. And if people are interested in your services and they need your help through these journeys, where can people find you?
Sure, they can find me at www.confidentcareerswitch.com. That is where we take the majority of our inquiries. So we do we do B2C. So we have career coaching, either one-to-one or group coaching, but we also work with organizations in terms of helping them recruit career changers as well. So that's also a product offering that we have. You can follow me on social media. So Alexandra Aileru across LinkedIn. That's that's where I'm assuming that most people will find me as well. Also on Instagram and on TikTok, Advice with Alex and Friends, where you get daily content about how to make your career change.
Okay, so I'll put those details in the description box below so that everyone can have access to that. And however, before we close, you also mentioned that you work with organizations, recruiting managers to find the right kind of candidates for them. How does that work?
So it works by, and there's only so much I can tell you, but um, through creating programs. So similar to like a graduate program, there's also career changer programs as well, and working with organizations to hire through that method, basically. Because what we tend to find is that many organizations stick to hiring a particular type of candidate from a particular type of background, whereas there is an entire area of untapped talent sitting there waiting to move your organization forward, but you don't even know how to get through to them.
Yeah, I guess sometimes our culture or our beliefs as an organization can be our limiting principles as well, isn't it? So maybe someone like you coming in and highlighting the things that, for example, a teacher will bring into an organization that probably the organization had not realized that they can, and that's where you step in and highlight those things. Is that a good understanding of what you
Yes,
do?
definitely it is. So I was a change practitioner as well. So I'm certified within change management. So I understand how to get organizations to make change and make change effectively. Projects is focusing on the deliverables, but change is focusing on the people, and the people are who really matter. They're going to be doing the legwork. And so many organizations think about people last. They don't think about them first. So if you want to reduce resilience or resistance, I should say, you need to focus on your people first.
Okay, perfect. Alexandra, thank you very much. I've learned a lot. We've covered a lot of things on here. So I hope someone out there who's thinking about switching from whatever industry into another new industry, you have at least a starting point in terms of what you need to do, things that you need to start thinking about. And obviously, there is support available out there, including the services that Alexandra offers. And yeah, just start communicating with people, reach out to people. Networking, like we have highlighted on here, is important, and put yourself in those spaces that you want to be in. So there we go. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think I won't take much more of your time, Alexandra. Thank you very much for joining me today. Really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you.